The next one is the philosopher I always feel sorriest for. And I feel sorry for him because he's one of those philosophers we all think we've read, even when we haven't. And that's because of the political history. I mean Karl Marx. And one of the shocking things about reading Marx, if you actually read it, is actually how exciting, revolutionary, and difficult the ideas are. And this is another one of my summary pieces. So I'm summarising Das Kapital in about 3 arguments, which, given that it's 3 volumes and very long, isn't bad. My inspiration here, though, is actually from another essay by Deleuze, and it's really, I start with chapter 15 of Das Kapital, the first volume of Das Kapital. Now, that is a remarkable chapter. It's a chapter that has a theory of machines like no other, and you'll hear that at the beginning. It's also remarkable for another reason. Did you know Marx invented the phrase Industrial Revolution? He does it in that chapter. He actually has the coupling the other way round, but it's the first time the idea has ever been peddled. And he does it in Das Kapital considerably earlier than it's used by historians. The piece will speak for itself. One more thing. Marx was born just about, now I'm going to be wobbly on my dates here, but he's born just about the year that Mary Shelley wrote Frankenstein, and you'll hear a bit of that coming through on this. So this is Marx in 3 arguments on a panic attack. Has not something really, really strange struck you about this revolution in industry of ours? Think for a moment what we have done. We've plundered the secret fire in the earth. We've called down the storm winds. We've broken the occult forces of atoms. We've hooked them into mighty machines that have opened up their eyes and started to walk with their own power. But why? Why? Have a new hat, 57 varieties of ice cream, new pair of shoes. We've taken them, the wild tempest of nature, and turned it into the blind servant of idle women fancy. More than that, we've made desire, human desire, the mighty peer of nature, and given it the right to punch and punch and punch where and when it will in this world of ours. And we've lain upon lust the almost Kantian duty to pull out new desires, new ravings, new cravings, so that future generations will fight and kill each other for things we would not yet like. Argument 2. And how can we comprehend this? How can we contain it in a mind that is going to remain Neolithic? A property structure that is Bronze Age, an authority structure that is Iron Age. But if we cannot, oh my, what blood are we going to spill? Both ours and in this world of ours. And what scarcity are we going to create right in the heart of plenty to be the poison beating heart of this capitalist utopia of ours? Argument 3. And how are we going to understand what we have done? Better, how are we going to understand our very failure to understand it? Oh, what lies are we going to tell ourselves about what we have done? Each like a sword of Oedipus, to poke out our eyes, to blind us from the all too palpable, all too hideous truth that we have made human desire into a Greek god, to be as bloody and as capricious as any god, to given it the right to bleed this world dry, turning it at last into a living husk. Oh, my comrades! What revolution in the human spirit could ever save us from so dark a future? That's actually a much closer summary to Marx as he makes the argument. And the final one is a dedicated piece. 4 weeks ago, my poor old dad died. And you would love this piece, so you're getting it anyway. He was a man who had as his password, he had to go into his computers after he was dead, and his password clue was the father of faith. And that reminded me of this piece from Kierkegaard. Because the father of faith, for you who don't know, is Abraham. And this is Kierkegaard. Kierkegaard is a Danish theologian. And one of the things he's very interested in is what you lose if you... He wants to try to persuade you that keeping God is a wonderful idea because of the extra things you keep, I guess.
And this is one of those essays he really does that. I'm wearing the hat, by the way, because Kierkegaard famously dressed a bit weirdly, and he had a hairdo that would take me too long to put up like that. My hair should be vertical. But occasionally he wore a hat, so I'm wearing a hat instead. Good evening. My name is Soren, and I've been thinking, what if the world is really as it seems to be, a sad song of blood and fury, where a man's life is little more than the song of a blackbird, over and gone? What then? Would life be worth living? Surely not. And so it is not so. Mankind sees to that. Look inside your breast. Do you not see it? The two? On the one hand, the great hero that none of us are. Not even the great Agamemnon, but all of us become across time. And on the other side, the singer of tales, the one who praises our hero, who would make everyone else listen to them, who seeks to become them in time, unite with them perhaps in death. And so life becomes a heroic tale, told by fools, but beautiful and sanctifying. But you get no further. All men are great by whom they love. Most men love themselves. A few men love another. But only one man really loved the imponderable. As men are great, they are remembered. But they are only remembered by what they expect. Most men expect the possible. One or two expect the eternal, but only one man expected the impossible. As men are remembered, so they become truly great. But they only become truly great by whom they strive for. Most men strive for their fellow men. A few men strive for themselves. But only one man strove with God. I am thinking of Abraham. At a time of strife, when one man sought to conquer all by his power, and another man sought to conquer all by his compassion, one man conquered God. One man conquered by power. One man conquered by wisdom. One man conquered by hope. One man conquered by love. But one man was greater than all of these. Even though his power was weakness, his wisdom was folly, his hope was despair, his love was self-hatred. I am thinking of Abraham. Of how he left his home city of Ur, of how he travelled amongst the people, of how he told those who would ask him that he had been promised by his God that he would be the father to a nation. He who was too old to have children. And yes, we have no lament from Abraham, no appeal to God. He merely believed, and that was enough. God relented, and he had a child born. And so Abraham passed the first test, the test of time, and became a knight of faith. But the greater test, the test of the moment, was to come. I am thinking of Abraham, of how he must have got up so early one morning, taken his sharp knife and his son Isaac. For God has ordained that many men lose their sons, but he's only ordered one man to murder his son. I am thinking of Abraham, travelling to the land of the people of Morah and to a mountain, building an altar and raising up his dagger. And what if he had been Agamemnon then? What would he have done? Would he have not raised up the dagger and said, God, I cannot do this thing. I will give you what I have, not what I do not have. And would he not have plunged the dagger into his breast?
and the story would be over. He would be remembered, but not as the father of faith. But Abraham was not that man. What then if he had been Odysseus, the cunning? If when he had raised the dagger, he had seen out of the corner of his eye, always shifting round, the ram that God had prepared as an alternative sacrifice? What then? He would have sacrificed the ram. And that would not have been the end of the story, but it would have been a different story. For Abraham would have been remembered as the man of unfaith, the one who taught us that God was not worth the worship. But Abraham was not that man. He brought the dagger down, and it was God that relented and promised Abraham a people and promised him redemption. I am thinking of Abraham. Thank you, Father Abraham. Thank you for punching through the mirage of the eternal, for grasping the imponderable moment that is lost even as it is given, for grasping it in the iron hand of faith so that it cannot be given up. I am thinking of Abraham. Abraham.